You wake up early, you stay late, you show up when others don't. You do more than what's asked. You take the hits, you follow the rules. You do the right thing, even when no one's watching. And for what? You're loyal, you're honest. You carry your weight and then some. You believe in doing the job well, even if it costs you your time, your energy, your health. You put in 60 hours a week. You sacrifice your weekends. You think it'll pay off. You think someone's watching, that someone will notice, that someday it will all be worth it. But that someday never shows up. Instead, you see someone else rise. Not the hardest worker, not the most skilled, but the loudest. The one who plays politics, the one who takes shortcuts, talks more than they act, shakes the right hands, and lives the life you thought you were earning. And all you can do is wonder, what did I do wrong? But maybe that's not the right question. Maybe the question is, what lie was I sold? Since you were a kid, they told you hard work brings reward, that if you grind long enough, you'll win, that doing things the right way matters, that patience pays off, that effort equals outcome. But what if it never did? What if the formula was broken before you ever learned it? What if the rules weren't rules, but a story written to keep you stuck? The German philosopher Nietzsche didn't just question the system, he exposed it. He called out the illusion. He said the kind of work we glorify, the obedient kind, the humble kind, the one that breaks your back without complaint, isn't noble. It's slavery, mental, emotional, spiritual slavery. Because in a world that runs on power, morality is often used as a leash. They teach you that being good is its own reward, that if you just stay quiet, follow orders, do your job, life will be fair. But life isn't fair. It's not built for fairness. It's built for leverage. The system doesn't reward effort. It rewards control. And the people at the top, they're not working 12-hour shifts. They're not skipping holidays. They're not the ones sweating in the sun or pulling night shifts. They're the ones pulling strings. That's why the nurse saving lives makes less than the influencer selling fake dreams. That's why the man hauling bricks all day retires broke while someone else plays with numbers on a screen and cashes out. It's not because you failed. It's because the system worked exactly how it was designed. You were taught to be good. You were taught to serve. You were taught to believe. Not because it would help you rise, but because it would keep you still. The world doesn't reward the good. It rewards the powerful, not the one who builds the table, the one who owns it. You believe that if you just did the work, kept your head down, the system would lift you. But the truth is, it was never meant to. Nietzsche called this slave morality. It's the belief that being obedient is noble, that suffering is virtuous, that staying small, quiet, and selfless is what makes you a good person. But good by whose definition? Not yours, not anymore. Slave morality wasn't born from strength. It was born from fear, from people who couldn't win through power, so they rewrote the rules to make weakness a virtue. They couldn't win the game, so they changed the scorecard. And you bought it. So did I. We all did. But now, you're waking up. You're seeing that this isn't a bug in the system. It is the system. Because if hard work really led to success, the hardest working people wouldn't be broke. The people who clean, build, carry, drive, and lift wouldn't be living paycheck to paycheck. The ones who serve wouldn't be the ones suffering. Meanwhile, those who own influence, perception, capital, they move mountains without breaking a sweat. They've mastered leverage. They've mastered scale. They've mastered narrative. And in a system like this, narrative is everything. That's the cruelty of moral labor. The world praises you for your service, then leaves you empty. It tells you you're important, but it doesn't treat you like it. It rewards those who control, not those who contribute. They don't want you to ask, who profits from my sacrifice? Or, why do I keep giving when it never gives back? Because if you do, you might stop playing. And the whole system depends on people like you playing blindly. So, no, Nietzsche never said stop working. He never said stop being honest. What he said was, stop calling obedience virtue. Stop calling suffering purpose. Stop calling silence strength, because it's not. And until you wake up to that, you'll keep spinning, working harder, waiting longer, believing in a someday that doesn't exist. That's how the lie survives, because it's wrapped in praise. If the world really rewarded hard work, then why are the people holding it up barely holding on? Think about the construction worker breaking his back under the sun. Think about the nurse missing meals while juggling life and death decisions. Think about the janitors, the drivers, the people who clean, fix, lift, serve, the ones keeping cities breathing. Why are they living paycheck to paycheck? Why are they exhausted and overlooked, while someone making TikToks in a rented Ferrari sells fake success and makes more in 1 week than the nurse earns in 3 months? It's not random, it's not a glitch. It's exactly how the system is designed to work. Because in this world, it's not about how much you do, it's about how much you own. It's about influence, it's about positioning. The people at the top, they're not working harder. They're working smarter, and more importantly, strategically. They don't just show up. They leverage their time, their connections, their narrative. They don't wait to be noticed. They know how to make people look. They're not worried about being the best. They're focused on controlling value, even if they didn't create it. And that's the game you were never taught. You were taught to stay humble, to be dependable, to wait your turn. You were trained to be a great employee, not a powerful person. You were taught how to follow, not how to lead. Because if you knew how the system worked, you might stop serving it. That's the core of slave morality, convincing the strongest people that their strength is dangerous, convincing the most reliable that loyalty is their identity, convincing the most competent that being invisible is noble. But what Nietzsche said was simple. Morality without power is manipulation. The system teaches you to obey, then sells you praise as a reward. But praise doesn't pay your bills. It doesn't build wealth. It doesn't build freedom. It builds compliance. You're told to be grateful, to be patient, to be humble. Meanwhile, the people at the top are learning how to negotiate, how to influence, how to win. They don't play fair, they play aware. And that awareness changes everything. So ask yourself, why are the most essential workers the most replaceable? Why does society preach the virtue of labor, then funnel all the rewards to those who avoid it? Because the people writing the rules never intended to play by them. They intended to enforce them. They told you the rules so you'd behave, so you'd be predictable, so you'd chase titles instead of ownership, praise instead of independence, stability instead of sovereignty. And they gave just enough to keep you close. A raise here, a thank you there, a promotion that looks impressive but keeps you trapped. It's not about recognition, it's about control. So, why does this belief in moral labor still have so much power? Why do millions still grind day and night for scraps? Still believe that if they wait long enough, it'll all work out? Because the story is beautiful. Because it gives purpose to the pain. It says, your sacrifice matters. Your struggle is holy. One day they'll see. But Nietzsche didn't write for comfort. He wrote for clarity. He wrote to wake people up from stories that feel good, but leave you powerless. He showed that morality wasn't about truth. It was about strategy. And if you're still stuck chasing virtue without questioning the system, then you're not moral, you're obedient. And obedience doesn't lead to power. So what do you do now? You don't throw away your morals. You don't turn cold or cruel. But you stop worshiping morality like it's a business plan. You stop confusing being nice with being effective. You stop believing that sacrifice is a strategy, because it's not. Real strength comes when you see clearly. When you understand that kindness without boundaries is manipulation, loyalty without power is servitude, and sacrifice without strategy is a trap. You have to stop waiting to be chosen, stop waiting to be promoted, stop waiting for the system to reward your goodness. The people who rise, they don't wait. They understand power, they study how it moves, they figure out where it lives, and they stop asking for permission. That's what Nietzsche meant by the Übermensch, the overman, the person who doesn't just follow rules, but writes them. Not a tyrant, not a villain, but someone who walks away from systems that no longer serve them. The Übermensch defines their own values. They build, they lead, they act, not for applause, but from conviction. They don't just ask, what's right? They ask, what's right for me? They live on their own terms. You've seen these people, the ones who left behind safety and built something bold, the ones who got rejected, laughed at, fired, and still came back stronger. They weren't waiting to be noticed. They weren't asking for permission. They were too busy becoming. They understood something most never do. If you let the system define your worth, you'll always be underpaid, underestimated, and overworked. The real shift happens when you stop asking, when will they see my value? And start asking, why am I giving them that power in the first place? That moment, when you stop waiting to be chosen and choose yourself instead, that's the beginning of real freedom. But here's the hard part. Escaping the lie requires more than just seeing through it. It requires letting go of something deeply rooted. Your need to be seen as good. It means you might disappoint people who rely on your silence. It means you might walk alone for a while. It means standing up when it would be easier to stay small. And that takes more than confidence. That takes courage. Because true strength isn't about dominating others. It's about taking authorship of your life. It's not about becoming ruthless. It's about becoming sovereign. So what does that look like? It looks like being kind, strategically. It looks like helping when it matters, but walking away when it costs you too much. It looks like setting boundaries, saying no and meaning it. Not because you're cruel, but because you respect your own value. It looks like choosing where your energy goes, knowing which leaders to trust, and which ones to outgrow. It looks like walking away from jobs that drain you, opportunities that use you, relationships that demand obedience and call it love. Power isn't something you steal, it's something you claim. And it starts by saying, I won't keep fueling a system that doesn't see me. Maybe you start your own thing. Maybe you build a side stream of income. Maybe you master negotiation, sales, leverage. Not to manipulate, but to protect your vision. You don't throw away your morals, you evolve them. You stop using virtue as a cage and start using it as a compass that points toward your goals, not their expectations. Because if you don't learn how to move with power, you will always be moved by someone else's. And no, power isn't evil. Nietzsche never said power corrupts. He said power reveals. It shows who you really are. And if you carry values, if you carry integrity, then power doesn't make you dangerous. It makes you capable. Capable of protecting what matters. Capable of building something meaningful. Capable of walking your own path. So, stop playing small. Stop being the cog in someone else's dream. Stop hoping that someday someone will hand you what you've already earned. The future doesn't belong to the obedient. It belongs to the aware, the ones who combine empathy with edge, principle with power, vision with action. If you were raised believing that hard work was enough, that being good would get you noticed, that if you just stayed loyal long enough, life would reward you, then it's time to wake up. Not because those values are useless, but because those values, without ownership, will keep you stuck. The real man, the real woman, doesn't just work hard, they work smart, they work aware. They know how the system works, and when it doesn't work for them, they stop waiting, they start building. That's the line between being replaceable and being respected. That's the difference between being a servant and becoming a leader. So if you're done waiting, if you're tired of hoping, if you're ready to stop surviving and start leading, this is where it begins. Hit subscribe. This channel isn't just here to explain the system, it's here to help you master it. One mindset shift at a time, one strategy at a time, one decision at a time. And if you made it this far, comment unstoppable. So I know who's ready to walk away from the lie and start creating something that's truly yours.